every time I see you, you make my heart say.
Hey guys, welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. So today we're going to do a brief conversation about Terica Ellis. If you are unaware who Terica is, I'm going to put a snippet in here to let you know who she is right here.
This story is far from over. Meth fiend Terica Ellis and reality show star Tim Norman are charged with conspiring to kill Norman's 21-year-old nephew, Andre Montgomery, in 2016 in St. Louis, Missouri. Ellis was booked into the DeSoto County Jail Monday and held for the feds. According to the federal indictment, Norman obtained a $450,000 life insurance policy on his nephew in 2014. Norman was the sole beneficiary. The indictment says in 2016, in the days leading up to Montgomery's murder, Ellis told Montgomery she was coming to St. Louis. She used a prepaid phone to alert Norman of his location, and when she was there, Norman was killed. After the murder, Ellis returned to Memphis and days later deposited $9,000 into multiple bank accounts. Ellis has previous misdemeanor convictions from the mid-2000s. One a drug offense, the other for indecent exposure. Court paperwork shows she was charged after local investigators said she was dancing nude at Pure Passion, the strip club where she worked. We don't know how Ellis, Montgomery, and Norman knew each other, but if you remember, in 2014, Sweetie Pies was in Memphis attempting to open a restaurant on Beale Street. That deal fell through. Ellis's father in Memphis had very little to say about his daughter's arrest.
I'm not interested in it, and never can make any comments on that right now.
Prosecutors have asked no bail be set, saying Ellis is a flight risk. Jenny DePrizio, Local 24 News.
Okay. You know, a lot of people talk about Terica, and I remember when the trial of Tim Norman was going on, I had a lot to think about. I didn't say a lot, but I had a lot to think about. We know that Terica was an acquaintance of Tim's for over 10 years prior to the act of Andre's life being taken. We know this. We know that she worked at a strip club. We know that she was planning to open up a clothing store, and the money that Tim gave her, it was said that, she interpreted that to be for her store. Now, her story was that she did not know what was going on as far as his life being in jeopardy. What she thought was that Tim was trying to get a hold of his cousin who had stole from his mom, and that basically he wanted to get him basically beat up. That is the impression that she got. Now, she didn't use the words beat up. The term that she used, I don't know, it was a street term. So if you're not street, you may not interpret it the way she did. She's from Memphis. Depending on where you're from, the same word can mean a lot of different things. The first thing I wondered about, well, let me give a quick story. So Terica dealt with Tim for 10 years. They met. I think she met him because she went into one of the Sweetie Pie's locations, and she was eating there because it was close to a place that she was working. She's lived in Atlanta, she's lived in St. Louis, and then she's from Memphis, right? So she met him, they became acquaintances, and for 10 years they made whoopee together. They saw each other, they went back and forth. But the fact of the matter is, what people don't understand, and what no one that I have seen spoke about, except one person brought this up, one person. She was smitten on him, and it may not have been for the right reasons. She was a girl from maybe a impoverished background. She didn't have a lot, and she didn't have a lot of resources. So he wasn't the worst looking guy, although they say he got big hips. He's swole, that's for sure. But like I said, he wasn't the worst looking guy. And I know women who date people because of what they have or what can be done. That don't mean they don't like them. It's just like, I'm not going to date a person that is not like this or not like that. And they have the ability, or that they give themselves the ability to make that happen, whatever that is. So, she liked him. She dealt with him over a long period of time. And when they got back together, like, he was really putting the moves on her. Not only did he give her that money, not only did she get $1,000 every time they saw each other, but he put her in a house. He bought her lavish gifts. He flew her to different locations. I mean, he spent a lot of time with her. And right at the time that the situation happened with Andre, I don't know if it was before or after, she put a post on social media saying, been knowing him for 11 years and he finally realized that I'm the one. Like, he had her thinking that. And remember when she pulled off from Natural Bridge headed home, when she pulled off, yeah, she heard the shots, but by the time she talked to Tim, now we don't know what the discussion was when she talked to Tim, but whatever the discussion was, I mean, he still laid it on thick. He told her, don't go back to St. Louis, throw that phone away. And she had already planned to go to California because she was planning on opening a boutique. As a matter of fact, I think she did open. I know at least she bought the stuff and got the location. I don't know if the store ever got open, but she definitely did. Now, when she went to California, she stayed at Tim's place, her kids, and her mom. She has 2 kids. At the time, she had a 2-year-old and then I believe a 16-year-old. So she stayed with Tim, and then she went home. And, you know, my understanding was, I'm getting mixed reports, because when I was doing my research, some people said that he stayed really close to her, like kind of to keep her quiet, to make sure, you know, everything was what it was. But then some people said that he didn't speak with her, like he kind of stopped talking to her altogether. Now, I don't really know which was true, but I do know when she was arrested at first, she wasn't telling nothing. There was one thing that I forgot to mention about Terica and her actually testifying. When she went into court and she had to testify against Tim, she sat in the witness box with her arms across her chest. She was whimpering. She was rocking like, I don't know, like the worst thing in the world had ever happened to her. As a matter of fact, the judge asked at one point, did she need to take a break, because he was so concerned about how she was presenting. You know, she was crying. She was rocking back and forth and, you know, noticeably upset the entire time that she was on the stand. She said she didn't know anything about anything. She don't know, you know, what they're talking about, what's going on, whatever. But when they said she'll never see her kids again, she did finally give in. And the thing about it is, she gave in, but I don't think she really wanted to. I think she really wanted to be honorable to Tim. I think she really thought that she had something with that man. It's so sad. Andre loved his grandmother. He loved his grandmother, so he took the chance to go back to St. Louis to prove to her that he was not being dishonest. I believe that girl loved him. It may not have been in the perfect way, but it was in the way that she knew how. And I believe that she wanted to be honest with him, but that love, that weakness that she had for him is the very thing that allowed him to manipulate her in a way that it would make her do these things and not question all the red flags that was everywhere. Flags was on the plate everywhere, and she still went through with it. And then I asked myself today, if she would have called the police, let's say everything went how it was, she didn't know what was going on, or she assumed it might have been him, and she called the police. Now, I think other people did call the police at that time, but if she would have called, that one phone call could have possibly turned her into a cooperating, I think they call it a cooperating defendant, instead of a co-conspirator. It could have been one call that changed her life that drastically. So she should have thought about that. I mean, I thought that she liked Andre a little bit, like as a friend. I don't know if he was just a mark for her, or was this a dude that she kind of was like cool with. Because, you know, even regardless to what Tim had going on with him, she could have still called the police. It still didn't have nothing to do with Tim. It wouldn't have helped or hurt him anymore for her to have called the police. Because think about it. When they went and they got to the scene, the police and the authorities and whatnot, when they got there and they got Andre and they got all the evidence that was around Andre, they got his phone. The phone calls that he received right before his passing was where that case started. And they just did this. They just went through them phone lines, went to phone, whose phone is this? Who is it connected to? And they connected the dots. They had to do that manual labor. And that's what took them so long. That's why this case took so long. And they had to have it ironclad, which they did. And that's why it took so long. And what would have happened is once they got back to her, all they had to do was ask her. She could have told the same lies. Everything else could have been the same. But when it finally came out and she finally gave it up, she could have said, but I called the police. I didn't know that was, that was going to happen. I didn't even know that they were going to do anything to him. I thought that they was trying to find him to turn him in. That's all she had to say. And I mean, if you participate with someone, and while you're participating with someone to break the law and a felony happens, you're still complicit. So it still would have been up to them to decide to charge her or not. But the thing about it is that could have changed her life drastically. I don't know if it would have changed Andre's outcome, but it could have definitely changed her life drastically. And my thing is, she should have owed that to herself. But that weakness, that ignorance that she had because that was her guy. She finally, in her mind, she's probably thinking, he going to get me out of these strip clubs. He going to get me out of all of this. I'm going to be able to change my life. She was a young, naive girl. Honestly, she couldn't have been too doggone young. She had a 16-year-old, which, that don't really mean nothing these days. She could have had that baby as early as 14, but that still put her in a position that she should have been, at least 29 to 30. I don't know. I just kept thinking, wow, how could you have changed your life, young lady? How could you have? Why were you so naive? And that's why I am presenting this case as a Flummoxed case. I am utterly shocked. I'm shocked that her actions got her where she is, because she was facing death in this in this case. She was facing death. So with that being the case, it's like, ooh, child, I don't know. But she's my case number 2 for Flummoxed. She was a young lady who was liking a guy and who worked with that guy to lure a man out to be shot. And then he was unalived. She heard it. She was probably 5 or 10 seconds from driving off when the bullets rang out, and then everybody started shooting because they know she was in the hood. They didn't know who the heck was being shot at, so to them it's like, y'all got me confused. I am. So she heard that. She drove for 4 hours home. I keep saying in my mind, if that was me and I was actually naive enough to go that far with that, I would have had to turn back to make sure he was okay. That I couldn't have just left. I don't think I could have left that city and not knew what happened. Like, I don't think I could have. Because that definitely wouldn't have been my intent to cause that. So I don't think I could have left there and just left it like that and just like I didn't look back. And that's why they said in her first hearing, because of the fact that she participated and because of the fact that she did nothing through all the steps it took to get him to that point, she did nothing to change the outcome of the day. Not only did she do nothing to change the outcome, even afterwards, she kept that the whole time. They arrested her. She didn't go in and talk to somebody and tell, and then it was, then they had more evidence. They had to come and get her. And she had said nothing to nobody. She went on by her life. So no matter how good or bad she felt, no matter if she meant to do it or didn't mean to do it, no matter if she was complicit or not, she still did nothing. She did nothing. And so because she did nothing, this is where she is. This is where she is. And that's so unfortunate. Anyway, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. I'd like to hear from you guys below. How do you feel about the case? If you don't know, if you need to know more about the case, you can ask me questions below. If you need me to talk about something else dealing with the case, you can ask me that below. I'd be happy to do a video for that. If you have any input or your 2 cents about it, how would you feel if this was someone that you knew? Would you tell? Would you keep it quiet? What would you do? And if you were in a situation like this, thinking that this was your guy, he just told you, oh, we finna be together. I mean, would you go through with that with him? Would you take it that far? That's what I need to know. Let's talk about it down below, guys. And I will see you in the next video of Flummoxed.
Every time I see you, you make my heart say.